All right. Hello, Nush, who almost certainly is not actually watching today. It's too late in the air. This is our special board meeting of the Waterloo Undergraduate Students Association. We're calling to order at whatever time it is now, and we'll begin, as always, with our territorial acknowledgement. Board of Directors of the Waterloo Undergraduate Student Association acknowledges that the University of Waterloo is on the traditional territory of the Anawadaron, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples. Our organization operates on the Haldeman Tract, land promised to the Six Nations, which is 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. We have agenda approval that I'll bring forward. There are two big things today. We have a presentation by Capacity Canada and a discussion of the Student Care Legal Program. Is there anything else critical for today? Can we be snappy?
Are we doing your presentation or?
We're doing presentations.
Or your president's role?
We don't have to do reports. It's a special meeting, unless people are going to make us do reports. I'll still have my report. I'll send it to you guys, but I'm not going to present it because it's the end of August and we don't want to be here. Any discussion on the agenda? I'll check in room first and then online. We've got Teresa on time. Wow. In the room, nobody agenda updates. And then online, nothing for the agenda. All right, seeing none. Let's do all in favor of the agenda as presented. Wait for online. This is why this screen's useful, eh? I can see the online folks. Anybody want a second? Already a second. Thank you. It's agenda approval. I get it. I'm sorry. All right. All abstentions? Abstentions. All abstentions?
Get it.
And all votes against the agenda as presented. All right. That seems to pass without issue. We have conflict of interest declaration. Does anyone have pecuniary interest in the things for today? I will immediately acknowledge that Sandra is providing us a presentation and as a result has a pretty explicit interest, but that's within scope. I don't think there's anything else that I would need to point out. Unless somebody has somehow involvement with student care beyond just it being your insurer, which is pretty standard, and I assume the case for all of us anyways. No, it's just Teresa again. All right, seeing none, acknowledging Sandra is here partially on behalf of Capacity Canada, and we'll keep that in mind, but I don't think anything else there is to be a worry. So, from there, nothing in the confidential session. And then we have a presentation from Capacity Canada. So let's jump there.
Okay, thank you. I'll give Mike a minute. He's got the presentation that he can put it up to share so everyone can see. Suzanne's got her hand up, Nick.
Oh.
Just for 2 seconds, I just want to note that we have student care joining us in 5 minutes. So I'm not sure exactly the timing of that, but I just didn't want that standard to be in the middle of hers and student care jumps on.
Do we want to flip that? Are you okay with that, Sandra?
That's absolutely fine. Yes, I would be about half a slide in probably.
Then I guess we'll do reverse order from what the agenda has just for the sake of student care. And
there will also be parts, Nick, that I believe for student care's presentation they would like to be in confidential session for. They're providing us with some information that they want to make sure is kept within this group.
Yeah, okay. Do we want to, I guess, start in confidential and then come out later? Or
you do that, and also, and even if you wanted to discuss what parts of their presentation you wanted to make public afterwards, maybe that is also a route to go.
Okay. Of course, awkward. Well, As always, I'm going to try and keep our discussion mostly public because it's useful to be able to look back on it as an at-large member in the future, in theory. But I guess we'll ask them at that time then, once they show up.
Actually, Nick, the simpler way for you might be to have the whole presentation in camera before you come out. Ask the question then. And then it just may make it easier for you to do it rather than asking it up front.
I think that's a good point. We'll start confidential. If anybody has questions that are for the confidential session, we'll start there, and then we'll hop out for the remainder of questions and to move on with the rest of the agenda. My computer's about to die, but we're waiting on student care, and I assume at some point Mike will let us in. We'll turn off our YouTube live stream. Correct? Okay. That makes sense? I think we're making sense. It's just another presentation day.
So we're just informally waiting.
Yeah.
Have y'all read the doc?
Yeah.
I've never heard of this somehow. International students.
Yeah, it's been they moved to Nicholas Hall. It used to be in South Campus Hall, as Michael informed us.
Like in the summer?
Yeah, it opened like 2 weeks ago.
You're an international student. You don't really need to know about it, but
There is a student lounge that they have in Nicholas Hall, so
well, that's good.
kind of right. And it has a dishwasher.
Oh,
Where
wow.
is it?
That's pretty high tech.
The first floor of Nicholas Hall. The first floor of Nicholas Hall. There's a student lounge there.
Oh,
You
wow.
go past the desk and stuff.
This.
Yeah, for this. They moved offices.
Did they present their findings? We did this last year too, right? Like where we talked about the legal program.
Yes.
What was it? Do you remember what it was? Just a presentation
It was a presentation.
on the findings, right? They were included in the doc, and we all read them.
Like a slide.
Did you guys renew it last year? I think it was just an information. Yeah, thanks.
Like, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we just did some research on it in last year, our research department, which was attached to the stuff that you folks got regarding what's some student feedback on it. Hi, Dal and Charlie. Does somebody mind shutting the door in that room if you don't mind?
Sure.
Thank you.
And Mike, to double check, we're currently in confidential, correct? Okay. Let's move to confidential. So the plan to student care in terms of our confidential, non-confidential aspect, just to make life easy, we're going to encourage you to do the entire presentation in the in-camera session. We'll ask any questions related to information that is you would prefer to keep not open, and then we'll move to the sort of more public questions at the end. So we'll start in camera for the presentation, confidential questions, and then public questions.
Great.
saying so many things on the board discussion. All right, Nush, hello. That's what I was watching. He's not even watching today. All right, maybe Rita, even though it's 2 a.m. in Dubai. The briefest summary there being that we had a presentation from Student Care, who's our insurance and legal provider at the moment, and they talked over some of the, I guess, good case studies in the past that students have used Student Care for, as well as some of the restrictions on the service as it exists currently. We didn't have much to talk about on the financial side, which is why we're in confidential. Other than, in theory, our estimate is that they've given us a reasonable price. More general discussion now on the motion itself, which is to actually continue until September 1st, 2025, which is an additional year. Does anyone want to kick this off? I guess I should be looking for a second to start with. Right? Yeah. I guess I'll move it to the floor. Anyone want to second that motion? It looks like Alex Siobhan. And Jeff, I assume you want to start our speaking order?
Sure.
Right.
Here. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
I appreciated the report put together. I think it's especially from the survey of our own students that we've done, people generally feel like they benefit from the program, even if they don't actively use it, just because it's there. I also, I guess, appreciated the extra support they've given us throughout the year on things like workshops and putting together our own legal resources. Yeah, I think the recommendations that are in the current proposal are sound of extending this for another year to evaluate.
All right, Mr. Rasmussen.
Nobody else on first? Okay. Yeah, I also support it. I think it makes sense, right? We have a whole bunch of students who currently are using a service, cutting it off would disadvantage them, right? I mean, we have to ask ourselves, do we have anything that adequately can give us this level of service with this low of cost that we're looking at? And really, I don't see anything else. So I think it's a good program to maintain. It's cheap, it's efficient, and for now, it works, right? It works.
Okay. I guess my comments, because we don't have, it's not contentious enough. I think we have a lot of students that are still currently using it, and we have Blair House as a big issue where that's going to go on for a little bit. And there are tons of UW students who are at Blair House and actively using the service. I don't know if it is actually worthwhile if we get really down to it, whether or not just them being actively using it is worth their time, but they are a non-sizable portion of the student body making use of it for once. And heat stroke's a big thing. We might as well come up with some stuff. Alex,
Just on the topic. Just on the topic, I think it's really important for us to push this onto students as much as we can. We've seen student care, and Jeff talked about it already. We've seen student care on campus a little bit, but it seems that just like with health and dental, we should really strive to push or get them to push more about their services they offer.
Okay. Just before jumping to Jay, Marvin actually did have a clarification for something I said, which is the addendum is not for 1 year. It's a 2-year addendum with the option to opt out by next September if people aren't happy.
Isn't it by April?
Is it by April, actually?
Because didn't we need to give 4 months notice if we opt out?
Oh.
No later than 4 months.
All right.
They have to give us the data by January.
Let's note that down. Marvin,
Yeah, you're right. We just have to note if the board decides to opt out of the program, the board just have to notify them 4 months before September 1st. So that'll be back 4 months before September if the board decides to opt out of the program. But right now, the addendum states that the addendum is for 2 years with an option to not renew. And the clause there is you must notify them 4 months before September 1st. So like Nick said, we have to note that down just in case we decide to opt out. So we have that option. And at the same time, we have to be cautious as not to forget the dates.
Then I think we should probably already today at least have a note for the, I guess, March board meeting that we should review this if we do go forward. And does that make sense? I can write it down in my calendar.
No later than January 2025.
But when we're reviewing it, what are we looking at again? Like, what's the difference between the data in March?
Well, because if we do for something happens, and then we need to know that we can't just, it's the annoyance of the 4 months before the actual date situation.
Okay, I still not board to go for 10 hours.
Sorry, we'll try and be fast. Let me double check what it currently reads, Mike, just to make sure that makes sense. But
January 2025.
January 2025?
Yeah.
Wait, so is it September? Is it back from September, or is September in advance of January?
That's January. No. Yeah.
Oh shit! It's January 2025.
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Mike, that's a good point. Thank you. I got my brain backwards. Mr. Land.
Yeah, I was about to ask, like, if students have the options to opt out this program, like they can opt out for dental or health.
Yes, they can.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Any other thoughts at the moment?
Sorry, it seems like you didn't answer my question. I was asking.
Oh, sorry. Alex answered it in the room. Maybe you was unable to hear. Yes, you can choose to opt out, and then that service would not be available to you, similar to other structures that we use for opt-outs.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Not identical, but similar. Any other questions from in the room or online? Jay, do you have additional questions, or is it just your hand up? Okay. Any further discussion on the motion as presented? All right, let's take a vote. Let's start with all against the motion as. That was Alex. Yeah. No worries. All votes against the motion as presented. All abstentions. I think it is just me. And then all votes for the motion as presented. Then the only person I don't know the vote for is Maricini. The motion will carry, Mike, but Maricini, how are you voting? Maricini, can you unmute to tell us what your vote is specifically?
Sorry, I raised my hand, but yeah, I'm for it.
Okay, for it. Thank you. Well, then that is nothing special there. All right, let us move on to the presentation from Capacity Canada. I'm sorry that that took so long, Sandra. Thanks for still being with us. But we're back to you. Oh, I think your microphone is not on. There you go.
All right, there we go. Mike, are you able to share the screen? And no worries, it was important discussion. And actually, if I can give you some feedback, I was very proud of all of you and the questions that you asked. Good due diligence on your part, so well done. Okay, you can put it into presentation mode. Thanks, Mike. So thank you for the opportunity to talk to you a little bit about what the evaluation process would look like for this next year. And I recognize I did have a little bit of an advantage from the conversation that you had at our last meeting in terms of the timing and the sequencing. So I've built that into what's going on. So the next slide, please. With any good board evaluation, you want to start with why are you doing it in the first place and what's the importance of doing the board evaluation. So it shows a number of things. You certainly will get a better understanding of how the board is functioning individually as individual directors and also as a collective board as a whole. Also, the evaluation gives you the opportunity to identify any kind of gaps in knowledge or practice, governance practice that you may have. And the other benefit of doing the evaluations are it often begins to identify who those everyday leaders are within the board itself, who may be willing to take on additional responsibilities like chairing meetings or leading projects and things like that, and being able to develop your own skills in that area. Board evaluation also facilitates leadership growth and governance skill development. Ideally, with the evaluation, you want to start the year off with looking at what are you hoping to get out of your board experience, what are areas that you might want to be improving upon, so that when you do the evaluations each term, as the board has decided, you can be managing and monitoring progress. And the last piece, which I think is really important to WUSA, is by doing the board evaluation, it'll help demonstrate to your stakeholders, who is the rest of the student body, that you do take the oversight responsibility very seriously, and you want to learn to be the best that you possibly can be in making the decisions that help advance the objectives of WUSA itself and the betterment of the student body. Next slide, please. So what I would suggest be the components for the board evaluation process for WUSA, 3 parts to it. One being the concept of having a meeting minute feedback at the end of each meeting, both board and committees. It can be either a quick questionnaire, 4 or 5 questions that you fill out, or it can be just a verbal, how did we do at today's meeting? What do we need to do differently? What kind of information do we need to have to make the decisions that we need to make? The real focus of this piece is to really look at the current meeting that you just had so that you can be preparing for the next one. Then the second part of it would be a more formal evaluation survey at the end of each of the terms. My understanding is you wanted to do it that way. It seemed to fit. Quarterly is a little awkward because it's in the middle of terms. So this way, I think it keeps it a little bit better. The evaluation survey itself would be a combination of open-ended questions and a rating scale. Each quarter, you'll see in a minute, we would want to, if there's a particular area that there were gaps, we would focus on that over the quarter for an improvement, and then be able to look at the progress that's being made at in the next survey. And then the third component for the evaluation process for WUSA would be the board work plan. And the reason I put the board work plan in there is you want to also identify in the plan when you're going to do the evaluations, and then what are some of the gaps that might have come up. If it's learning, how does that fit into the board work plan so that you are doing the continuous improvement throughout the year? Next slide, please. So just a few things to consider of what the elements of the tool might look like. A number of sections, and there are 7 altogether. There would be a section with questions around how the board is performing its role, how well it's looking at its primary function, which is including strategic planning, oversight, monitoring the organization's financial viability, quality performance, the services that you're providing, the oversight and supervision, oversight really with the executive director, and stakeholder relationships, which you do fairly well through your committees. The second section would look at the board role and management relationship. So what's the understanding of your governance role and what's your relationship with management? Board quality looks at the quality of the skill sets that each of you would bring to the table, what your collective skills are, and the quality of the decisions you're making. Are you making really quick decisions without any information? Are you not reading your packages? Those kind of things, but will help look at what's the quality of the board and how it's functioning. You look at the membership. Now we've got an elected membership. There's not a lot that can change. However, if you're looking to encourage candidates to run in upcoming elections, it may give you some ideas of how you promote people who may be interested in being on the board but are not quite sure about it. Just give you some background on how you can encourage people to come forward. Also looking at the onboarding process and the continuing education that you put in place. There's some questions around that. The next slide, please, Mike. Looking at the board structure, issues related to the committees. Are things flowing from the committees to the board as they need to? Are things going from the board back to the committees when they need to? Section on meeting process, like the processes that you have for the meetings, the organization that you have of the meetings, how things flow, the board materials that you're getting, and appropriateness. Are you getting the information that you need to make the decisions you need to make? Is it at the level and complexity and completeness that you need to have it? Another section on how well the board is functioning. So balancing board meeting time between all the issues that you need to deal with. Are you spending enough time on those things that are your fiduciary responsibilities? Are you looking at your strategic responsibilities as well as the generative or future focused kinds of things? That really is where the board adds value. And then finally, individual director functioning. A few questions that would be asked around how you as an individual board member feel you are making the contribution. Where do you think your knowledge gap is? How might you be able to better perform your role if you had certain information? So there'd be some questions around that in the section. All online, all easy to fill out. The next slide, please, Mike. Then in terms of timing, the suggestion is that the meeting minute evaluation be something that you start with the September board and committee meetings. And whether you do them at each meeting or every other meeting, that's something that still can be decided. But the whole purpose of doing the meeting evaluation is in the moment being able to say, hey, yeah, this was a great meeting, or oh my goodness, this was a horrible meeting. And these are things that we need to do to try to correct for our next meeting so that it is a productive meeting as you're moving forward. Then 3 phases for the evaluation, suggesting end of the summer term, we're almost there. So getting a questionnaire out early in September, depending on when we can get it out, have the results summary report ready for the October board meeting with some recommendations on what areas we might want to focus on for the next quarter or the next term. The end of mid to late December, and it really depends on the exam schedule, that may slip to doing it early in January. You want to make sure we've got enough time to be able to implement any recommendations or changes that you want to see. And then the third one would be toward the end of the third term, with 2 purposes for this one: to look at how things have happened over the entire year, and then look at what some learning suggestions might be as you prepare for the new board coming in May. And it may help fit into the board onboarding or retreat that you have with the leadership team. It may give you some topic ideas to put into play. And then the final piece is that it then gets incorporated into your board work plan for next year. So Mike, we can stop it there. So it's just, I'll open it up for any questions you might have. And as Mike's putting the slide down, there is no additional cost for it because it's based in the agreement that you guys have with me. There are projects that, if this is a project specific for me to carry out, I fit it into the allocation of what I'm doing.
Okay, well, I guess it's back to me. Anyone have questions specifically? Matthew.
Would there be any problem with using specific, like the exact same questions that we've used in previous evaluations from the other, I guess, survey providing.
Some of the questions that the other firms that you've used, some of the questions, I think the questions you'd find would be fairly similar. And there is, your point's well taken. It is good to be able to compare over time. So you want to be able to get that base. So that's why when we talked about it last month, I said one of the things that you want to be able to do is to get that standardized kind of tool that you want to use so you can do the comparison one to the next. Sometimes it is good every now and then to do a fuller external review and having someone else do it. Organizations that their term is much longer than yours might do, for example, 2 years that it's administered internally, and then that third year it would be external. But it's a little harder for WUSA to do it because technically your terms are 1 year. Many of you have been reelected, which is great. You're a new board each time, though, which makes it a little bit harder to completely compare.
Thank you.
Anyone else have specific questions for Sandra today? So if we want to do a little discussion, should we do like what
you want
we
me
did
to hop off
last meeting where we asked Sandra to step back for our last little bit of discussion? Everyone okay with that? Thank you for your presentation, Sandra. You've been very collaborative, which is super nice.
Great. I will, somebody will just text me when you want me to come back.
I think that is the case.
Okay. Thank you, Marvin. So I will go completely out then.
All right.
Yeah.
Just gonna watch the YouTube live stream and find out all the nice things. Okay. I guess I should do the actual thing where I bring the motion to the floor, right? Where I say I'm going to make a motion to accept the proposal that Sandra Hammer and Capacity Canada have presented for the board evaluation process, which we can discuss. Would anyone like to second my motion? I see Matthew for a seconding of that motion. Let us discuss, or I guess it'll be to direct staff to hire. All right. I think we all understand. Discussion on the motion and the process of hiring on Sandra and Capacity Canada to do this. You've seen her presentation. Anyone feel like it's missing anything? Any feedback that we have? Nothing else to say? We have had a longer discussion about this already with the other ones where the finances were much more important.
Do we need a motion?
Do we need a motion? Yeah, there's no motion in the agenda that actually, this is a non-motion section in the agenda. No, it's just, we're making formal the decision, I guess.
There's no discussion. Let's just motion it. Come on now.
Nothing to discuss. Well, I'll check in with online and then I'm happy to move to the vote. Online crew, anything before we vote on going forward with Sandra's proposal? Not seeing any hands online.
Goodbye, Style Pack.
Okay, let's start with any votes against the motion that me and Matthew have brought to accept Sandra, and I guess this also means to not go further with the Salopec proposal.
Slide.
All votes abstaining. And everyone, so sorry, did I screw something up here?
No, you're good. Keep
Okay. And all votes for.
It's not this one. That took me a second. It's okay, guys. It's okay. This is. Doesn't matter.
Maricini?
Yeah.
How are you voting today, ma'am?
What's the vote for? I missed what you were saying.
On pursuing Sandra for board evaluations and not continuing with the Salopec suggestion.
Yeah, I'm for it.
All right. That is, I think, unanimous, right?
Yeah.
We had no abstentions, no.
Abstentions. Three's
No abstentions? Abstentions? Abstentions. No abstentions. No votes against. Unanimous vote for moving forward with Sandra. Okay. Have we exhausted the agenda? I think we have. Do you need to make a report, or can we call it?
No report. I just want to remind people some stuff.
Okay.
Marvin's okay.
We can do it in an answer section. Marvin.
Yeah. No, just to ask if Cedric can hop back in. Do we need to?
She can, but I suspect it will be for seconds. You can call her back in, but it'll be a.
We're supposed to give reports. They should put a report in that case.
I have a report for today, but I just made my previous one longer as opposed to making a special one. I added an extra 2 weeks.
I just want
I actually submitted my August report finally, as opposed to.
Well, I just want to say, please sign up for orientation. This is not a report. This is a reminder. Sign up for orientation events.
Just a reminder.
Sign up for orientation. Come to the thing I sent you an invite to. One on the 18th, one on the 19th, 1 hour to do discussions for next board meeting. Please pick one and come. So next board meeting is quick.
Another one.
One is enough.
Okay.
Do you want a second tag? I have to keep mine because it's got my name.
What do you want a second one?
So it's a WUSA. Wait, this isn't technical.
I'll talk to you
Nick,
That's it.
okay, thank you. Nick, Sandra is back in. So we can.
Hi, Sandra. The information for you is that we are no longer going to be pursuing the Celloprec proposal, and I think the board is very happy to have you on board to do evaluations. Though the fun part here is I think we're out of agenda. Arya had an update about orientation week, but assuming we don't have anything else left, I'll let Mike speak. But if Mike doesn't have anything that we have to do, I think we're going to go to adjournment. But Mike.
It'll be something. Fine, then. Doesn't mean anything. Fine.
Was this one of those things that we signed at the beginning of the term, or?
Yeah.
Okay. Damn, sorry.
Cool. Anything else, or let's go to adjournment? All right. I guess the motion to adjourn. Anyone care to second it? Anyone voting against? Any abstentions? All right, let's get out of here. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye,
Have a good long weekend, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Okay.